Welcome. Today is episode 3, and we're getting into the nuts and bolts, the forecasting process, building and managing your forecast. We have covered why booking forecasts fail, and the data foundation is needed to enable it to succeed. Now let's talk about the actual forecasting process. How do you build a reliable forecast and manage it throughout the quarter? I've observed two extremes in how companies approach forecasting. Now there's one extreme. The CRO asks each rep what they will close. He'll roll it up. Maybe apply a haircut factor and call it a forecast. There's the other extreme. Complex models with probability weightings, historical conversion rates, machine learning algorithms. And somehow both approaches, they produce equally unreliable results. The simple approach fails because it's just aggregated optimistic views. The complex approach fails because it is garbage in, garbage out. Sophisticated math on top of bad data is still worthless. What actually works is something in between, a structured human-driven process, and is based on rigorous deal inspection and realistic assessment, and is supported by data but not replaced by it. So let me walk you through what this looks like. So step 1, define your forecast categories clearly. Most companies use something like commit, best case, pipeline, but I've observed that these terms, they mean different things to different people who are making the forecast. And this makes their forecast meaningless. And here's how I recommend defining them. What does commit mean? Deals where you have spoken to the economic buyer in the last couple of weeks, and you have clearly documented the next steps, and you've scheduled a meeting, and you've validated the pricing and the budget, and you understand the decision process. You're committing to the board that these deals will close this quarter. You're very close to the deal. Your commit forecast should be 90 to 95% reliable. The best case situation are deals that are well qualified but have some uncertainty. Maybe you have not spoken to the economic buyer in the last week, or there's a step in the approval process that you don't have full visibility into, or there's competition and you're less confident about these. They might close, but you wouldn't bet the company on them. And then there's everything else in the pipeline. And deals that are at the earlier stage, they're less qualified, they have longer time horizons. The key is that everyone in your organization uses these definitions consistently. Commit means the same thing to every rep, every manager, every exec. I worked with a company where commit had become meaningless. Why? Because the reps would put deals in commit to look good in the pipeline reviews, knowing they probably would not close, but hoping they might. The commit forecast was consistently 60 to 70% accurate, which meant it wasn't a commit forecast at all. We redefined commit using the strict criteria I just outlined, and yet we told the sales team, if you put something in commit and it doesn't close, you need to explain why to your manager and to the CRO. We're not measuring you on whether deals close. Sales is hard and deals fall through. We know that. We are measuring you on whether you forecast honestly. Within 2 quarters, their commit forecast accuracy went from 65 to 92%. And why? Because the reps, they stopped putting wishful thinking in commit and started being honest about which deals were truly solid. Let's talk about step 2, implement the weekly deal inspection process. This is a very important part of the forecasting process, and it's where most companies fail. You cannot manage a forecast by looking at a dashboard once a week. You need to actually inspect the deals. And here's what I've observed works. Every week, someone, usually the sales manager, sometimes the CRO for large deals, they sit down with each rep and they go through every deal in the commit and evaluate the best case forecast. It's not a quick review, it's a real inspection for each deal. The questions are, when did you last speak to the economic buyer? And what did they say? And what are the next steps? And when is it going to be scheduled, the meeting? And what could go wrong? What has changed since last week? Should this deal still be in this forecast category? And the conversation does 2 things. 1, it forces the reps to actually know the status of their deals, not just guess. And 2, it surfaces problems early. You find out 3 weeks before the quarter end that a deal is slipping, not 3 days before. I work with a company that implemented what they call deal inspection Fridays. So every Friday afternoon, every manager, they spend 2 hours with their team going through the commit forecast, deal by deal by deal. At first, the reps did not like it. They hated it. It felt like extra work. But within a month, they started seeing the value. Deals that would have slipped at the last minute got flagged early. Deals that needed exec engagement got escalated within the time, giving them time to act. And what happened? The forecast got more accurate and more actionable. You look at step 3, which is how, you're tracking the forecast evolution throughout the quarter. Most companies, they only look at whether they hit their final number, but I've observed that tracking how your forecast changes week by week is just as important. And here's what you should be tracking. At the start of the quarter, what was your commit forecast for the entire quarter, week by week by week? What happened to those deals? Which ones closed? Which ones slipped? Which new deals entered the commit stage? By the end of the quarter, what percentage of your final bookings came from deals that were in your initial commit forecast? And this, my friend, tells you a lot about the health of your forecasting process. If you're consistently closing less than 80% of your week 1 commit forecast, your qualification standards are not strict enough. If you're closing 95% of week 1 commit, but you are consistently bringing in deals at the last minute that were not in your forecast, you are sandbagging. I have observed healthy forecasting processes produce this pattern. 85 to 90% of your quarterly bookings should come from deals that were in your commit forecast at the start of the quarter. The other 5 to 10% comes from deals that move through your process faster maybe than expected. And you should have very few deals like that appear in week 4 of that quarter that were not on your radar at all. Here is a personal example of why this matters. I was working with a company that consistently hit their quarterly number. So management thought their forecasting was fine. But when we tracked the forecast evolution, you know what we found? That only 60% of their bookings each quarter came from deals that were in their week 1 forecast. The other 40% were deals that came out from nowhere in the last 2 weeks of the quarter. This meant only 2 things. One, their pipeline visibility was terrible. They didn't know what was actually going on and what will close and what will not close. And 2, they were probably leaving revenue on the table because they were not actively in managing deals until the last minute. So we implemented something called structured forecasting process, and that's what I'm describing here. And over 3 quarters, the percentage of bookings from week 1 forecast went from 60% to 82%. More importantly, their bookings increased by 15% because they were actively managing deals throughout the quarter instead of just hoping that the deals would close. Step 4, create a forecast submission process. At some point each week, I recommend Monday mornings, each level of the sales organization, they submit the forecast up the chain. Reps to managers, managers to territory leaders, regional leaders to the CRO, CRO to the CEO and to the CFO. And at each level, the manager is putting their name on the forecast. They're saying, I have inspected these deals. I believe they'll close. I'm committing to this number. And this sounds simple, but I've observed again that most companies don't do this formally. The forecast is just whatever is in the CRM. Nobody's actually committing to anything. And when nobody's committed to the forecast, no one is accountable for it. The submission process creates accountability. It forces the managers to actually review and approve the forecast rather than just rolling up the CRM data. And it creates a paper trail. When you miss the forecast, you can go back and understand why. Was the deal never qualified properly? Did something change with the customer? Did we lose to competition we did not see coming? I work with a company that implemented formal weekly forecast submissions with a required sign-off from each manager. Just this simple process change. It improved the forecast accuracy by about 9 percentage points in 1 quarter. Why? Because managers started actually managing the forecast instead of just reporting whatever was in Salesforce. So let me there's a lot of information, so let me bring this all together with what the complete process really looks like. Monday morning, forecast submissions flow up to the organization. Each manager has reviewed their team's deals and committed to a number. Tuesday through Thursday, you're working the deals. Deal inspection meetings are occurring. Managers and reps, they go through every commit deal, Problems get flagged, actions get assigned. And on Friday, you have that, remember, that forecast review with the exec team. The CRO presents a forecast. They explain any changes from last week. They flag the risks and the opportunities that follow. This weekly cadence creates discipline in the organization. You're not managing the forecast once at the beginning of the quarter and once at the end. Actually, no one does that. They do barely a few reviews, but having this weekly discipline creates a sense of urgency. Companies that implement this kind of structured forecasting process, they improve their forecast accuracy by 15 to 25% points within 2 or 3 quarters. And more importantly, they have fewer surprises. They know earlier in the quarter when they are going to miss or beat their number, which gives them time to do something about it. So in the next episode, this was a very long episode, but in the next episode, we are going to talk about the analytics and the accountability systems that keep your forecast honest over time. And we'll cover the specific metrics you should track, how to create this culture of forecast accuracy, and how to continuously improve your forecasting process. I'll see you then. Thank you for bearing with me for all this time, going through part 3. Take care. Bye-bye.